Good morning and thank you for joining us. We begin with our top story. The IDF is continuing Operation Brother's Keeper today into its 12th day this morning, arresting 4 Palestinians overnight suspected of terrorism and raiding 120 homes in Hebron. Meanwhile, the mother of kidnapped teenager Naftali Frankel is due to address the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva today and call for the immediate release of the 3 Israeli boys. Racheli Frankel is expected to appeal for international condemnation of the abduction and call for pressure to urge the kidnappers to free the 3 yeshiva students. We're joined in studio by I-24 News senior Middle East analyst Ali Waked. Good morning, Ali.
Good morning.
And also by I-24 News diplomatic correspondent Tal Shalev. Good morning, Tal.
Good morning, yeah.
Let's take a look first at the following report and then we'll chat.
On the 11th day of the search for the 3 Israeli teenagers kidnapped from the West Bank, still no clue as to their whereabouts. The IDF arrested 37 Palestinians in overnight West Bank raids, continuing Operation Brother's Keeper, the most intense crackdown in the area in years. Thousands of locations have been searched, all connected to Hamas, which Israel has named as responsible for the abduction. The Israeli Prime Minister has promised to present unequivocal proof that the kidnapping is Hamas's doing, but not everyone is easily convinced.
We challenge Israel to show us evidences and information. Until this moment, they have failed to do so.
Nevertheless, at least one positive diplomatic sign can be detected in the mess. The Israeli Prime Minister finally joined the international chorus and found some good words to say about the Palestinian president's condemnation of the abduction.
I think it was good that he said that, and I think it would be tested now by his willingness to stop the incitement against Israel and the glorification of terrorists. This would be a good departure towards that direction.
Meanwhile, the Israeli security agency, Shin Bet, revealed Monday that early last month, long before the kidnapping, it arrested 2 Palestinians involved in the April Passover Eve shooting, which killed police officer Baruch Mizrahi. One of the suspects is a Hamas operative who had previously been imprisoned, but was released in the 2011 Shalit deal, refueling the sensitive debate on the prospects of prisoner releases.
The arrest proves that the idea of releasing prisoners is dead. A murderer is a murderer. He has to stay behind bars.
In the wake of the kidnapping, Jerusalem decided to renew its controversial policy of destroying the homes of terrorists, and will start with the home of Mizrahi's killer. Israel is hoping the old-new punitive measure will have a deterrent effect on future terrorists, but it will not help to bring back the boys.
We're also now joined by I-24 News correspondent Michal Divon. We'll go to Michal as soon as possible. Tal, of course, this is, rumor has it, if you will, that this operation is into its last days, mainly because no information has been found and Israel can't continue its operation with the international community staring into its territory.
Well, the political level and the diplomatic level and the cabinet, the security cabinet, is weighing the options. It is clear that the targets, the military targets, they're running out of them. I think we spoke here, me and Ali, on Friday about it was already the beginning of that trend, and now this evening, just last night, it was 4 people arrested. That's really normal evening of activity for IDF, and it's even less than a normal evening of activity for the IDF and the security forces in some cities in the West Bank. And now there is the question how to pressure Hamas more. And that's the big question. One of the decisions that was made yesterday at the Security Cabinet was a demolition of houses of terrorists to try and renew this very controversial method. It was stopped in 2005 because they found out that it didn't really deter and it only stirred more hate. But in any case, they're looking for other options, but there is the international community, cloud, and the cloud of collective punishment around. There was a debate. There were some cabinet ministers that wanted to continue to military operation against the Palestinian Authority itself, and that was objected by other ministers, and in the end, Netanyahu went with the other ministers. But yes, it's like at a point, it's reaching a point where Netanyahu and his cabinet will have to decide what's the next step, and that's a big question. does Netanyahu have a long-end strategy? They are declaring that the end game is to break up the unity government, and that could be one of the outcomes, but we're not seeing that happen yet, and that's something that Netanyahu will have to think about. What will be his exit strategy?
Ali, of course, keeping on with what Tal says, the unity government is still intact, but it has been weakened most likely by these last 12 days, and only yesterday we heard Khalid Mashal speaking to the media and saying Hamas was not even behind this.
I will repeat it. The unity government won't be broken, won't be dismantled for the simple reason because in the eyes of the Palestinian, it is not a unity government. It is a reconciliation government where Fatah and Hamas has nothing to do with. There are no members of Fatah or Hamas in this unity government. Therefore, this government is a technocrat, secular, mostly left-wing government that will continue preparing the Palestinian territories, the Palestinian Authority to the elections. Now, there is a big question mark whether the Israelis are going to allow the Palestinians to carry out these elections. Already there are talks among the Palestinians that they are assuming that Israel won't allow the elections to take place in East Jerusalem. In this case, the Palestinians will not do the elections, and this reconciliation government that was sponsored, blessed by Hamas will be still with us on the ground. The second question that the Palestinians are raising is what is going to happen in Gaza, because it is clear that what is going on the West Bank, as Tal said, is the beginning of the end, the very end maybe. And the question is, we are talking about two tracks of operations for searching for the three youngsters and the attacking Hamas targets, civil, Dawa, military. This second track is almost done, is almost finished. Now, what would be the impact of the first track, looking for the three kids, and its impact over the Palestinian Authority, over the Hamas and other organizations' motivation to retaliate against Israel? Yesterday, we heard, and it was not a coincidence, Khalid Mashal and Ismail Haniyeh, they are not so satisfied that the operation in the West Bank is going to its end, because they are their politics, their agenda is fed by Israel activity on the ground on the West Bank. Hamas is doing all effort, especially by its media and by its second, third class militants in the West Bank, to keep this this atmosphere of confrontation between Israel and the Palestinians going on, because they know that the dividend they are going to collect is accusing Abu Mazen and the Palestinian Authority to collaborate. We said at the beginning that there is a risk that Hamas in both cases will win. Hamas will win because it might take the credit for the kidnapping and of eventual negotiations with Israel regarding the release of prisoners for the three kids. And on the other hand, if the operation will maintain, the hostility of the Palestinian population will be directed to Abu Mazen and to the Israelis.
So obviously Abu Mazen and Mahmoud Abbas is looking towards this as his own political survival. Another political survival, of course, is on the Israeli side. And we heard yesterday also from your report that a terrorist has been recaptured, if you will, for the killing of Baruch Mizrahi, the policeman on the Passover Seder. And reports were coming out of the Israeli media yesterday that Netanyahu has ordered the recapture of many other terrorists that were freed in the Gilad Shalit deal. That's kind of, maybe can we say PR?
Well, I wouldn't say it's PR. I think the story is that when Netanyahu found out that the murderers of the suspects of the murders of Baruch Mizrahi were arrested long before this operation and long before the abduction, and according to sources inside those meetings, Netanyahu learned that that the perpetrator is a Shalit, is someone who was freed in the Shalit deal, and he immediately thought there's going to be a problem here, because the Shalit deal was a very, very painful move for Netanyahu. He was attacked on it. He's been attacked by until this day. And, it sheds a big light and on the rationality of that decision-making process. But in any case, the whole prisoner debate issue, the whole prisoner release issue, it's such a sensitive issue in the Israeli society, and it has not been dealt with. And now you can see that people are, again, trying to deal with it, to find an answer to it. If it's recapturing the Shalit released prisoners, or legislation, different legislation attempts that each try to define the price of an Israeli life, or what exactly will be done. And it's a painful question. Do I think there will be an answer? I'm not sure, because it's a moral question. It's a moral dilemma. It will be there always.
And it's not even a political one. We see, of course, the former Shin Bet chief, who's Yuval Diskin, is against the release of prisoners, while Netanyahu is the one that actually freed them to begin with.
Well, Netanyahu is the big paradox, because Netanyahu has been all of his life been one of the staunchest lecturers against terror, and he built his political career on terror, and on fighting terror, combating terror. So that's the big question. How did Netanyahu go forward? In the end, he's going to go down in history as the prime minister who released, I think, the biggest number of Palestinian prisoners, the 1,027 of Shalit, and the recent prisoners that he preferred to release instead of freezing the build in the settlements. So Netanyahu is the big political question. It's a good base for anyone who wants to oppose Netanyahu to build upon. And the former Shin Bet security chief, Yuval Diskin, it's genuine. He was against the Shalit deal too. His objection is genuine, but in any case, I would notice his moves, because he is supposed to be, or expected to be, one of Netanyahu's future contenders, and this could be a major and very painful and emotional issue to challenge Netanyahu upon.
On the Palestinian street, with regards to the prisoners, of course, this has been maybe the biggest leverage that the Palestinian people themselves have. They know that these kinds of ordeals, kidnapping and so forth, does ultimately lead to some kind of negotiation.
Absolutely. Since the 80s, the Palestinian prisoners were released only after such negotiations deals. It is true that from time to time, as part of renewing the negotiations between both sides, a couple of dozens or some dozens of prisoners were released. But there is a unanimity among the Palestinians. The key for releasing prisoners is kidnapping Israelis. They received hundreds and thousands of prisoners released after kidnapping. Now I want to mention an angle that we didn't deal with. Among Hamas, there is a discussion whether Hamas should be back to be a liberation, revolutionary, terrorist organization, or to be part of the institutionalized politics among the Palestinians. And this can have a huge impact over the Palestinian street, but also over the conflict, the level of the conflict. For example, we know that because the Muslim Brotherhood are losing in Syria, and because the Muslim Brotherhood lost in Egypt, Hamas finds itself obliged to turn towards Iran once again. Iran, who financed the military wing of Hamas, the administration of Hamas government, and Hamas as a movement, find itself only financed for the military wing, and the other two are cut. Hamas need the money. Hamas is starting a dialogue with Iran in order to get back to what was in the past, and the Iranians are, of course, conditioning that Hamas should be part of their bloc, part of their interest, exactly, and this can change the whole picture.
And if I may just add, if that happens, it would be, if Hamas goes back to Iran, goes back to the Revolutionary Guard, and goes back to military operations, this will be a clear failure of the international isolation policy that has been conducted since 2006.
Right. 1 second, we're going to go straight now to I-24 News correspondent Michal Divon, who is in Nof Ayalon, of course, the home of Israeli kidnapped teen Naftali Frankel. Good morning, Michal. Thank you for joining us. We understand that the family is on their way to Geneva.
Good morning, Yael. You're right. We're here in Nof Ayalon. The mother of Naftali Frankel, Rachel Frankel, actually left already yesterday, and the two other mothers are joining her today. They are on their way they're right now already in Geneva, appealing to the United Nations Human Rights Council. This is a tactic that people have used in the past. The parents of Gilad Shalit in 2010 also made an appeal, as well as the town of Sderot. They're hoping to obviously involve the international community and up the pressure on Hamas, whether this will actually work and whether this tactic will help. we'll have to wait and see. It's hard to assess. Also, the fact that Rachel Frankel and Naftali Frankel are U.S. citizens is probably something that is increasing the chances for U.S. involvement and U.S. pressure. But again, they're going to speak today to the UNHCR and also to the Red Cross in hopes to involve the international community and appeal to bring their boys back home. Another something important to note, this is happening at a time where Hamas has made their first statement. Chief Political Bureau Khalid Mashal has spoken out for the first time, basically saying he has no idea where the kidnappers, where the boys are, who made the kidnap, but he, as much as he didn't take responsibility, he did praise the operation.
Right.
And his statement can maybe be seen as a tactic, as he's known as the strategic mind behind the idea.
Michal Divon, I-24 News correspondent there in Nova Elon, thank you for joining us. You will, of course, be updating us throughout the day. Tal Shalev, thank you. Ali, thank you. After the break, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry meets with key leaders in Baghdad as the U.S. pushes for establishing an inclusive Iraqi government. But first, some more of this morning's headlines. Welcome back to I-24 News Morning Edition. We now get to say hello and good morning to the one and only Anthony Grant, who joins us daily to discuss the news you may have missed while scanning the headlines. Anthony?
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Okay, well, let's start with a very timely headline here from Times of Israel. Which says quite clearly Jordan and Lebanon beefing up security against Islamist threat. So, of course, this is in response to the events unfolding in Iraq. And, of course, those borders now are looking more porous than in the past. And this is something of concern, obviously, to these countries. In Lebanon, there was a raid on an ISIS sleeper cell on 2 hotels in central Beirut the other day. So the situation is tense and fraught with peril on all sides.
Jordan, it's the last thing that they want or need for ISIS to get into their territory. And they're doing as much as they can. Of course, Israel is looking at that as well.
And Amman is saying their military is very well trained, but still the risks are there. But going back to Lebanon, the Daily Star reports, well, Jumblat, this is a Socialist Party leader, Walid Jumblat, has warned, that it says it's time for one vision or Lebanon's going to vanish. And he, of course...
You could say that again.
Yeah, I'll say it again.
That's been the slogan for years now.
Interestingly, though, this is in response to the current crisis in Iraq. But he cites Henry Gouraud, who was the High Commissioner of the French Mandate over Lebanon and Syria in 1920, and saying it's time to preserve his vision, who he kind of set the boundaries. And he's evoking, a very important guy from the past, which is not something, he doesn't do that every day.
Yeah, and I don't think that everyone in Lebanon would agree with Henry
Probably right. This is probably true,
drew
but
those border lines, based on.
But the historical, the moment of crisis now is sort of it's like an arc of dramatic events, which he is saying it's time to pay attention to that.
Got that.
To his Lebanese compatriots. Wall Street Journal, interesting little article here. It says, despite Israeli raids, World Cup still draws a crowd in Ramallah. And article says, despite the Israeli offensive, the brothers' keeper to focusing on Hamas elements in Hebron, that it's not preventing people from watching whenever they can World Cup matches, because it's still something that gets people together in various places.
And Ramallah is not as much as a focal point of the operation. It is, but not as much than Hebron.
And despite the tense atmosphere, which is sort of changed over the past several days, again, the soccer or football does still get people united in a way. So kind of a slice of life piece there. Washington Post. This headline was making a ripple across the internet yesterday. AAA, which is the Automobile Association of America, says that the Iraq Civil War, their use of the word civil war there, or phrase, is pushing up gas prices in the U.S. For the past 9 days in a row, gas prices in the States have been on the increase. So this is something that, as we're getting into the summer and travel season, is something that I think people and the government and Obama is going to be watching very closely.
Yeah, well, it just highlights the dependency, the U.S. dependency on the rest of the world. And we'll, of course, be speaking about Iraq in just a few minutes.
And going back to ISIS, International Business Times, another story that's making waves is that ISIS hoodies and T-shirts are for sale online as the Islamist brand goes global.
Oh, no.
Now, it's really, I don't want to laugh at it, but it's a little bit of a crazy story.
Who's behind this?
Well, apparently there's some companies in Indonesia-based websites, and there's some elements in Indonesia which are very sympathetic towards ISIS.
Okay.
And these actually have been sale for quite a while, you know, from $7 to $13. You can get your own hoodie or T-shirt or, I don't know, maybe a cap.
Mujahideen around the world T-shirt?
That sort of thing, yeah. You know, I guess it's legal. It's questionable whether it's in good taste or not. I would probably say no, but you know, this group has its Twitter updates. They've got an app. So this is according to this, it's terror brand building, and it's pretty disturbing, which brings us right to the British government. And The Guardian reports that the UK government has now revealed the scale of the online fight against jihadist propaganda.
Oh, that's a good connection there.
Yeah.
From a propaganda to the government.
Yeah, this is sort of a governmental response here. David Cameron's spokesperson saying that as many as 15,000 items of jihadist propaganda have been taken down from the internet, at least in the UK, due to government pressure since December 2013.
Wow.
So that's a step in the right direction. I think it's pretty safe to say.
What's in the category of jihadist propaganda?
Well, for example, one thing that they're trying to get taken down now is a YouTube video, which was posted 3 days ago by a Cardiff man who's actually in Syria calling for British Muslims to join the fight in Syria. So they want that to come off of YouTube, and apparently YouTube has not taken it down yet. So it's an ongoing struggle, but they're on top of it, so to speak. So that's a positive development. And we also have in the Daily Mail, British paper, reporting on the latest Clinton scandal, if you will. You know, the bombshell book. The bombshell book is out, Blood Feud, by journalist Ed Klein, which alleges many things, but basically it's pointing to a not so great relationship between the Obamas and the Clintons.
Oh, wow.
And
what's his evidence here? Besides rumors. I'm sick of these rumors. Give me some evidence.
Yeah, well, sources.
Okay.
You know, I'm not sure who he talked to, but some of the conversations that he quotes do sound like the way Bill Clinton would speak, but whether or not it's actually...
Because you and Bill speak every day.
Pardon?
Because you and Bill just speak every day.
Well, you know, after hearing him speak over years and years, you get a sense of how he talks. And we know that, you know, Hillary, of course, was... You know, I'm not going to say meant to be president when Obama got the nomination and before his first term, but there's a lot of friction between these power couples, and there's a claim that Michelle calls Hillary Hildebeest.
That's not nice.
It's not nice at all. Is it true?
Talking about the
I haven't read the book.
2016 presidential candidate.
Obama apparently told Clinton on a golf course that Michelle would make a great president as well as Hillary.
Really? But Michelle has just said overnight, actually, she spoke to some media saying that she's not going to be seeking a political career after the White House.
Right.
But that's what they all say, doesn't it?
Exactly.
And then they all fall for that.
I think we need to read the book and decide for ourselves
I think that he just wants us to read the book. I need hardcore evidence before I decide if anyone hates anyone there.
Actually, no, you're right. Speaking of evidence, if we have time for one more. British newspaper The Independent has found evidence of secret British headquarters for the UK's gun-running naval operation, which armed the slave-owning South and prolonged the American Civil War by 2 years.
Wow.
It's a long headline.
Yeah,
but
wordy.
Wordy, as the Brits are inclined to be. But it's a fascinating thing. They found some wrecks of ships which apparently were used to help arm that the British used to help arm Confederate states during the Civil War.
Right.
And apparently, Britain was officially neutral during the Civil War, but on the side, kind of taking sides, making some money, even though slavery was already outlawed in the UK for many years. So very fascinating stuff from an archaeological, historical perspective.
Nice. Where is this? Off the coast of?
Off Liverpool areas, just off of the British coast in certain spots, and research is still underway, but it's adding another aspect to America's fascination with its Civil War past.
Pretty fascinating. Anthony Grant, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
On now to our next topic. The U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry met with the Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki in Baghdad yesterday. Iraq, of course, is facing its worst crisis in over a decade with the ISIS militants en route to the capital. Kerry stressed that the U.S. commitment to aid Iraq, citing that ISIS is, quote, a threat to all of us, and confirming that al-Maliki has agreed to a July 1st deadline to begin the process to form a new government. Meanwhile, we're hearing reports of Sunni rebels in Iraq saying that they've now fully captured the country's main oil refinery at Baiji, north of Baghdad. To learn more about these U.S. efforts in Iraq, we're joined now in studio by Channel 2 News Foreign Affairs editor Arad Nir. Good morning, Arad.
Good morning, Ed.
Thank you for joining us. Let's take a look at the following report.
As city after city falls like dominoes into the hands of the jihadi Sunni group ISIL, American Secretary of State John Kerry came to Baghdad Monday to press Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki to form a unity government that will include more factions such as Sunnis and Kurds.
The very future of Iraq depends on choices that will be made in the next days and weeks. And the future of Iraq depends primarily on the ability of Iraq's leaders to come together and take a stand united against ISIL. Not next week, not next month, but now.
Officials in Washington have suggested that the Iraqi Prime Minister should resign. Kerry himself dismissed this possibility on his visit in Egypt earlier this week.
The United States is not engaged in picking or choosing or advocating for any one individual or series of individuals to assume the leadership of Iraq. That is up to the Iraqi people.
The ISIL tightened its grip on the northern side of the country on Monday after capturing the town of Tal Afar, a strategic point that includes a local airport. Meanwhile, officials in Baghdad announced Monday the government has lost control of the Al-Walid border crossing between Iraq and Syria a day after the Turbol border crossing with Jordan fell under militant control. Without the required tools to handle the current crisis, some of the Iraqis are welcoming a U.S. intervention despite the complicated situation the U.S. left behind when troops left Iraq in 2011.
I think there is a solution in Kerry's bag to solve the crisis, and he will suggest solutions enabling Iraqi politicians to reach national accord.
The chaotic situation in Iraq continues to disturb many in Baghdad as well as in Washington. Less than 3 years after the U.S. pulled out most of its troops from the region, President Barack Obama will have to take a tough decision soon, a decision that may have dramatic implications not only in Iraq, but in the entire Middle East.
So, Arad, of course, the deadline, the July 1st deadline, it's actually a U.S. requirement for any kind of intervention. It's an ultimatum almost.
Talking about U.S. intervention, I was very happy to learn from Tony here that the American Automobile Association, the AAA, has put its finger into this ordeal.
Making a commercial.
This means that maybe the American administration will have some incentive to get into it. Because as things are going now, the main lesson that we have to learn and follow from this, that the Obama administration is not going to intervene in Iran. Kerry was yesterday in Baghdad, and he said that the U.S. will do anything it can regarding diplomacy and assistance. They are not going to intervene militarily in what is going to happen and what is happening actually in Iraq at the moment, and this is the most important thing. The region will have to solve its problem on its own.
But it begs the question, of course, whether Kerry's intentions are politically motivated or this comes from some kind of military strategy that the Pentagon is telling Kerry and Obama, you have nothing to do there. What comes first?
This is the Obama doctrine, which we've been talking about for so many years now. There's no need for troops on the ground. Now, it's frightening to see how true it is. They cannot solve the problems or the problems of the Middle East, all problems of the Middle East, from Syria through Iraq, coming to Israel and the Palestinians. They cannot be solved in a military manner. And what is frightening about it, that President Obama says it out loud. And apparently he will not send troops on the ground. He'll be willing to help whoever will be willing to accept this help, and not necessarily al-Maliki, because there are lots of disputes between them.
Right.
And he'll be willing to help with some military assistance, with advisors, with diplomacy, regional diplomacy, but no another Vietnam, no another Iraq, and this is the most important thing that we must take with us from this. Yes.
So my cynicism, and now that we hear the fall of a big oil refinery to the hands of Sunni militants, plus, of course, Anthony's headline from the AAA, what will burst this bubble of the Obama doctrine? Can economic considerations?
Only if the oil prices will surge. And apparently, I'm not sure that this announcement of the AAA is really going to happen. Why? Because America, the United States, becomes more and more independent on its energy needs. And this is why the whole equation is changing. And I must stress, it's not from yesterday, not from the day before, but from last week. We've been very busy here with the abductees, and the world was busy with the World Cup. But there is one piece of information that went under the radar, which is Vladimir Putin of Russia has offered al-Maliki all the help he'd need in order to combat this insurgency. Watch this. If America will leave void in Iraq, there's someone to come in. And it started in Syria, we see it, and it may happen in Iraq as well. And this triangle of Syria's Assad, Iran's Khamenei, and Iraq may be the new triangle of the region, which is very, very threatening,
and orchestrated
even
by
to us.
Putin.
Orchestrated by Putin and auspiced by Putin. And this is very, very concerning. And well, for the time being, what the Americans are demanding from al-Maliki is political reshuffle to be more accommodating to the Sunnis who are not part of the insurgency yet, of this jihadist ISIL. But I'm not sure that he's going to go their way. He's buying time. He's trying to be okay with all parts involved. And we better watch the Russians.
Arad Neil, thank you for joining us, Channel 2 Foreign Affairs editor. Coming up next, the city of Baltimore has imposed a new strict curfew for teens in an effort to reduce crime rates, raising concern across the nation. But first, some more of the headlines. Welcome back. It's still Tuesday, June 24th, 2014. This is the Morning Edition. Thank you for staying with us. The city of Baltimore is perhaps sadly known for its staggering crime rates, which are among the highest in the United States. At least 9 minors were killed in Baltimore this year alone, which prompted the mayor to sign a new strict curfew law in an effort to reduce crime rates and ensure youth safety. The new curfew calls for Baltimore teens to be off the streets by 10 p.m. on school nights and by 11 p.m. on weekends. It also subjects parents to face a fine of up to $500 if their kids are caught roaming the city streets at night. Critics across American cities believe that these new regulations will solve nothing and will only increase random police searches on innocent youth. To hear more about this curfew controversy, we're joined now in studio by I-24 News senior editor Ruti Sinai. Hi, Ruti. Thank you for joining us. So, not, of course, the first time that Baltimore is passing any kind of curfew, but this is most definitely the strictest.
It is the strictest, and although they have a bill, actually, a law in place, a curfew law in place, but it's not enforced, and that's what's been happening all around the United States. I mean, in the 90s, there were a lot of curfew laws. Clinton at the time was a big fan of them, and you know, when there was a lot of youth crime on the streets, they then kind of, you know, petered off off, the enforcement kind of, people, it's not sustained.
Right.
And, so when something happens or there's a bit of a wave of killings or any sort of violence, then they step it up and then it's kind of forgotten.
It's kind of forgotten. We're also now joined by Manny Halberstam, Washington, D.C. resident. Manny, you have had some experience in Baltimore, especially with regards to the regulations there and curfew. Is this what Ruti is saying? It's most likely, it's true that curfew laws have been around, but they're not really enforced throughout, and they kind of just get back into the headlines only when something happens.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this is, part of a broader campaign by the city of Baltimore as well as other similar cities that are dealing with higher rates of crime to kind of come down on this crime, on these sort of higher crime rates. And what they've done is they've enacted, stronger gun control regulations, and sort of these tougher curfew laws are among this sort of broader package of regulations that these cities are enacting to get tougher on crime that pervade their streets.
And across America, we're reading also a lot of opinion pieces that are bashing this new curfew law, saying it's not going to be effective, and in fact just instills kind of this atmosphere of fear. What is the policy in Washington and within like the federal system with regards to these curfew laws?
Well, I mean, there's two major concerns about the impact that these curfew laws are going to have. One, you have to focus on the limited funding of these cities to support these types of programs where police are going to be patrolling the streets and making sure that youth between the ages of 14 and 16 are not walking around past 11 o'clock. That requires a lot of funding. And, as I'm sure you've heard in Detroit and other cities,
right,
plenty of municipalities are experiencing financial difficulties. And this, there's a concern that this would not contribute that lightly to the sort of poor financial situations that cities are facing.
And of course, we're on the brink of summer vacation. Is it reasonable to ask these teens to stay in by 10 p.m.? Is that something that can be enforced?
Well, the thing is that ultimately the incentive that is at stake here is not the incentive of the teen, but rather the incentive of the teen's parent, because ultimately who needs to pay the fine when the teen is violating the curfew? The parents could be paying a fine of up to $500. So I guess the plan here is that parents will want to avoid this fine and will strongly encourage their kids to have to stay inside, as difficult as that might be during the summer. But these kids, might have to do it if their parents really want to avoid this fine.
Manny Halberstam in Washington, D.C., thank you for joining us. Ruti, of course, this begs many other philosophical questions of police and society kind of connections, and we've seen it in throughout the United States in the past years. This, the biggest criticism, perhaps, is this is just going to up police brutality, perhaps.
Yeah, and profiling of various sorts. I mean, there's statistics, for instance, in Cleveland, I think, where 30% of the youths are only 30% of the youths are black, and yet 75% of those that police stop, of whom are stopped by police are black. So, that's one concern. I actually think that Israel is an interesting case in point. Israel has had for the past few years something called parents' patrols. These are parents who go, patrol hotspots, public parks, anywhere where youth might congregate on weekend nights or in the summer. And they kind of keep an eye on things. I mean, they're not, they have no jurisdiction in terms of stopping anybody or anything, but, they're there.
Right.
And I have a teenage daughter, and she tells me, that their presence is usually not, obtrusive in any way. But for instance, she was out with a bunch of kids, and one of the guys got very drunk, and so they helped take him to a first aid center and so on. And I think that might be an interesting way to go if parents are willing to get involved. Look, the problem also with police officers is that, they're not social workers. I mean, they're not, the community relations aren't always at the top of their concern. And it might be traumatic traumatic for kids. The flip side, of course, is that yes, if parents are, rather than parents keeping their kids home because they're afraid of paying a fine, perhaps let them go out, but be out there and vigilant as to what they're doing.
And how much of it is also politically motivated? Of course, each city has the jurisdiction to choose it, but as we heard from Manny, these are also expensive curfews to implement.
You need more police patrols, and you need more manpower, and so on. Look, of course, all these things are showing that you're tough on crime is always very popular everywhere in the world, I think, and especially if there is a wave of crime in a certain city, and that's what's happened in Baltimore. I mean, these are always reactive steps. Right. They're not really preventive in any way, and I think they're not sustainable. That's one of the bigger problems with them.
And definitely time will tell. Of course, Hollywood took Baltimore as a case study with The Wire and so forth, which perhaps, I don't know, does too good for the city image, but it's curfews such as these.
It's a pity because they have a lovely, harbor and a huge aquarium, gorgeous place.
Well, it can't be there after 10 p.m. So
that's true. With your parents, you can.
With my parents,
yes.
Ruti Sinai, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And now we get to say hello and good morning once again to Anthony Grant. Anthony, are you rummaging around Baltimore at night?
I love Baltimore. Actually, I'm partial to Boston. That's my favorite B city in the U.S.
No curfew there yet.
No curfew there yet, even though it's got more of a Puritan past. Anyway, guess who isn't Puritan is Katy Perry.
No,
because
she's definitely not
kissed
Puritan.
a girl and she liked it.
Right.
And she hopes that her boyfriend didn't mind it. But now she's Instagramming with Hillary Clinton.
Ooh.
Yes.
That's going to up her Puritan level,
book signing for Hard Choices, Hillary's latest autobiography. They look great together, and apparently
I never saw Katy Perry all,
sort of business-like.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't.
She's so tall, or is Hillary so short?
Both. Anyway, she said she would write Hillary a theme song if Hillary wants for her potential upcoming presidential campaign, and maybe it would sound something like "Roar."
Let's hear.
Something like "Roar." I think that would be a great theme song for Hillary, don't you?
It's hilarious. No, it is written for Hillary.
It almost is. And Hillary is. Wait. No, Hillary is a Scorpio, I think, and Bill's a Leo, or it's the reverse. But there's like a lion thing in there. Yeah, there's some kind of feline roar thing going on.
The copy of my book is on my way.
Okay.
On the way now.
Is it signed by Katy Perry?
No,
all right,
but,
well, I can get you a copy signed by Katy Perry. Ooh, I'll try.
Yeah,
okay. So that's fun to watch. Let's see what happens with that partnership. An app called Yo. Heard about it? Hey, Yo.
I have it.
Wait, okay. Now, Yo.
I downloaded it yesterday.
Now, it was founded by Or Arbil. Now, that sounds to me like a suspiciously Israeli name.
It most certainly is.
Okay, despite this fact, this apparently is not the world's cleverest app. Because all you can really do is tell your friends, yo.
Exactly, that's what I did for about 10 minutes yesterday.
Now, is there a point to this app? Because if there is, I cannot figure it out.
Well, it's a big, techie question, and there kind of is. I mean,
well, apparently it was hacked the other day, and Or ends up hiring the chief hacker.
Right.
So,
well,
I mean,
the thing is, and this is why it's getting so much media, because otherwise nobody really talking about it. It was able to raise so much money. More than $1 million in its first round of funding.
Wow.
And so when something that just sends yo to each other gets that much money, people start to listen.
Pay attention, yeah.
And everyone downloaded it.
Yo.
My entire family downloaded it, and we all spent about 10 minutes sending yos to each other.
Yeah.
And we're very satisfied with ourselves afterwards as well.
Well, I bet Or is very happy.
He is very happy.
Yeah. Well, yo. To me, it's like yo-yo, and I'm going to transition here to a real yo-yo.
Okay.
Don't know the guy's name, but an American exchange student who got stuck in a piece of art at a German university. Here you go for the headline from Gawker.
Right.
Now, what he was doing inside of that sculpture, which is by a Peruvian artist called Pichacan, is the sculpture's name, which means making love, apparently. Well, he was trying to take a selfie. Took 22 German firefighters to pull him out.
Well.
Yeah.
I mean,
so,
don't get stuck in sticky places. What's the
enjoy art from afar, I think, is what,
yeah.
It's like, you see that, take a picture, you see the Mona Lisa, don't go up and kiss it, you just sort of
I'm sure he was dared to do it,
He was a dare.
Oh, he was a dare,
Students will be students, but the image of American students abroad is taking yet another hit.
So it was on the campus of the Institute of Microbiology?
The Germany's Tübingen unit, my German Institute of Microbiology. So there's a little bit of a biological link there.
A little hands-on experiment.
Hands-on experiment.
Let's look at microbiology
from within. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so
you can't blame the educators; they're doing their best.
No, and you can't blame the
Bringing
artist.
a sculpture of a giant
it's expressive,
German
vajayjay.
Vajayjay.
That's how we say it in American slang.
All right.
Anyway, on a similar note, biological note, heard of the NHS?
Yeah.
In England?
Of course.
It's their healthcare service. Well, there's been a scandal because a woman had a $10,000 approximate breast augmentation job.
Okay.
And she's taken some heat for that because it was taxpayer funded.
Ooh.
And now she tweeted, "But sticks and stones may break her bones, but taxpayers will always fund me."
Oh.
Even at throwing, adding to the flap here, and she's getting free taxis, taxpayer funded, to take her kids to school. And she claims that she gets too much harassment now because of the notoriety, and she can't take a public bus because it would be potentially injurious to her kids.
Wow.
So again, a very controversial
Sticks and stones will break other things other than her bones. She better watch out.
Apparently
after
so.
that job done.
Yeah, but apparently, the NHS did a good job on her, situation there. But the taxpayers want better use of their funds, apparently, in the
I think
UK.
that the NHS has to answer more than this woman. I mean, she just.
Yeah, in need of some improvement there. Yeah. Kourtney Kardashian is back in the news.
Oh, I forgot about her.
Kourtney Kardashian, of course, we often talk about Kim because she's the real, Queen Kardashian on there. But,
whatever.
Kourtney is about 3 months pregnant. She's going to be doing a photo shoot for Fit Pregnancy magazine.
Yeah.
And apparently she could be wearing a fake baby bump.
For the...
Right, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, so...
Can't she wait a month or something?
Well, they want to time the issue, for the December-January issue and her due date, so it begs the question, is she, should she wear a fake baby bump? Her sources are saying it's not confirmed yet if she'll do it, but she should just go as she naturally is for the photo shoot. So,
or just wait, a few weeks and you'll have that real baby bump.
Anyway, on another note, Hurriyet reports about Jessica Alba, who was in Turkey for the Golden Butterfly Awards, which was sponsored by Hurriyet newspaper. It's like awarding a TV literary accomplishments, and she spoke a little Turkish. This was at Istanbul Zorlu Center over the weekend, and she was the honorary guest of this award ceremony, which actually was very nicely carried off. And Jessica Alba looked gorgeous, as she always does.
Yeah, going international.
Very international, yeah.
Nice.
Her Turkish is better than mine. Sting.
What else?
Sting.
Yeah.
Sting, famous Sting, has told his 6 kids they won't get much inheritance because he's going to be spending it all.
That's a good way to solve any inheritance issues.
Yeah,
just spend it all.
Fend for yourselves,
kids.
What
is he going to be doing?
Well, he says that he and his lovely wife, Trudy Styler, have a very lavish, demanding lifestyle, and they're, busy with their own life, and that their kids are kind of have to fend for themselves. And he says that the kids are okay with that.
Yeah.
Well, the article doesn't really quote the kids and what they happen to.
I'm sure they're out there working the 9-to-5 jobs.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And making their own money.
Anyway, Trudy is famous for, among other things, she set up Madonna with Guy Ritchie. So a little bit of a sideline business there, if you will, matchmaking.
All right, we're going to have to stop there, though, Anthony Grant. Anything else? You'll keep it for tomorrow. Keep us waiting on the edges of our seats.
Drew Barrymore can wait.
Anthony Grant, thank you for joining us. And, of course, coming up next, we're going to have all the latest from the World Cup. And, of course, the acclaimed sci-fi director now takes over Star Wars Episode 8. We're going to be speaking about that as well. But first, some headlines. Good morning, and thank you for staying with us here at I-24 News Morning Edition. We're now joined in studio by Wine at America journalist Roni Stab. Good morning, Roni.
Good morning.
And by I-24 News Sports host Jonathan Regev.
Morning.
Good morning, Jonathan. Roni, we're going to start with you. What's new in pop culture?
So we have some more Star Wars news coming up. Looks like Rian Johnson will be directing episode 8 of the upcoming Star Wars series. Initial reports claimed that Johnson is about to direct episode 9 as well, but it was later confirmed that he will only write the treatment to the film. No,
he's
Johnson
not that well known. I mean, he's not like the superstar director.
Not at all. You know, like his resume is very short, let's say, but super busy and super influential. He one of the first things that created a buzz around him was 2005 when he created the teenage film noir Brick, and then after that at 2008 he did the crime comedy The Brothers Bloom, who I think is a masterpiece. And after that, we saw him doing Looper with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Bruce Willis.
For me, he's a masterpiece, Joseph Gordon.
Yeah, he is by himself, but not.
By himself.
I agree. He won an award of the Directors Guild of America for directing 3 episodes of Breaking Bad. Let's do the whole masterpiece little list of ours.
So he has had no failures yet in Star Wars.
No failures, especially not anything that got to the headlines. So it looks like he knows his craft. So I think it's going to be exciting too. Well, he was very also creative about the way he announced what he thinks about this little detail coming out. He tweeted. A scene from the Outer Space classic, The Right Stuff, where Scott Glenn and the astronaut Ellen Shepard is saying, "Dear Lord, please don't let me fuck up." So it looks like he knows it's pretty big shoes he needs to step into.
And he does it in a very creative way as well.
Yeah. And some more directors' news about Star Wars. So J.J. Abrams is doing episode 7. They just began producing, and they're going to start filming very soon. Now, it's very known that the films of Abrams are notoriously super secretive, and no one knows anything about them. But little bits of information's already started spilling out.
Yeah, you needed to raise those sails in the end.
Just a little bit, just to create a little bit of
buzz.
Yeah, just a little bit more of a buzz. So the series' original stars, Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill, will all return to the new film alongside Adam Driver, Lupita Nyong'o that we've talked about a couple weeks ago. That was the last addition to the movie. Max von Sydow and Andy Serkis. And Abrams said that it is both thrilling and surreal to watch the beloved original cast and these brilliant new performers come together to bring this world to life once again.
And of course, decorated directors, which is no less important. Very nice. Next, what else do you have?
So a little bit, let's do a little shift into music. So we had Firefly Music Festival last weekend. It already closed. But a couple of headlines are still creating a little bit of a buzz going on. Buzz is like our theme today, I feel
always,
like.
That's
always
what you're
our
here
feel.
For. Yeah.
So it took place in Dover, Delaware, and one of the first performances were the Foo Fighters. They opened on Friday the 19th, and after they gave their own set list of hits, that it's their own work and craft, they started another set list of covers. Covering Van Halen's and Talking About Love, School's Out of Alice Cooper, Rolling Stones' Miss You, and Queen and David Bowie's Under Pressure.
Oh wow, I would have wanted to been a fly on the wall there.
I know. David Grohl said before that we're going to do something we've never done before for the next 20 minutes. We're a bar band called Holy Shits, and we play classic rock.
Ah, perfect.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, that's like the perfect.
So the next time you need a karaoke band, maybe you can call Grohl and see what he's doing.
They're probably like testing the waters for a second career.
They have a new album coming out next November, and they also have a documentary series called Sonic Highways that is set to debut on HBO later that year. So they are doing some stuff. So I guess they were just trying to, have some fun with their fans. It was 80,000 fans in the crowd. So
and much more, I think, probably now on YouTube. So they're all good. They're doing well.
There you go.
Michael Jackson.
Okay, this is going to be a hard one. So, so stick with me. Like, Michael Jackson is having no rest. Not here, not afterlife, not ever. So
the fight continues.
The fight continues always, apparently. So it looks like the company that produced the Michael Jackson performance at the Billboard Music Award filed a $10 million countersuit against Hologram USA, which has preemptively sued prior to the broadcast.
Okay. Saying what? What's their claim?
So basically, Hologram USA claiming that they have the patent to the hologram, that they did it first on Tupac Shakur at Coachella 2012.
Right.
At the same time, Pulse is saying this was not at all hologram, but rather animation projected onto screen, which apparently two completely different things.
Or maybe they're just
or the same.
Yeah,
you know,
a
or
nice
the same
way of saying the same.
Exactly. Now, the whole idea is that they're both saying that the public was getting confused with what both companies are doing and created major problems for both brands to try and strive.
Right.
They're saying that that Pulse was just launched their brand, while David interviewed to the CNN talking about animation, creating a whole confusion as to who did what.
Right.
I'm still not sure I know who did what.
I can just say that the Tupac hologram at Coachella was humongous, and it did break a lot of culture lines and boundaries and.
Absolutely. Now it looks like it's getting worse. Yeah, I feel like I needed like a board and a Sharpie, and we're gonna start writing it all down. But looks like last February, Mr. David, Hologram USA, outbid Pulse executive chairman John Texture, who was previously the CEO of now bankrupt company Digital Domain, which made the Tupac hologram in the first place.
Wow.
So it looks like this is all about
a lot of mess.
Like, who stole my lunchbox type of thing.
Yeah, just talking about a $10 million lunchbox.
Yeah, just a $10 million lunchbox, but, the same thing. Now, both the Jackson and the Tupac performances made using a variation of the 19th century stage magic trick. It's called Paper Ghost, and it uses mirrors placed in different angles in order to create a two-dimensional performance
so it's totally
to life.
It's not really technology. It's more like science
it's technology mirrors. And then some. And also their Pulse said that the Tupac animation hologram was completely different because Tupac had no hair and he didn't move, and Michael Jackson had to move the whole time, so it was completely different. I can go on and on, but
someone that does know how to move and is going to do so well and bring in the money moving is Beyonce and Jay-Z?
Beyonce and Jay-Z. There's a new nickname. Have you heard it? Jay and Bay. That's the new thing. And when I was like searching, it was all Jay and Bay, and I'm like, I'm not sure.
Oh, nice. Okay. I actually like that.
It's a whole like power couple kind of thing. But Beyonce is such a, we were talking about masterpieces, so she's such a
but they've not done so well in their image. But despite that,
exactly,
they're raking in the cash.
Exactly, it looks like the internet completely denounced their new up and coming tour On the Run. But Forbes magazine actually uses some actual data to oppose the same claim. So they're saying that it looks like the tour is about to result in around 100 million in grosses. Now, it's not that impressive. We had U2, the Rolling Stones, Madonna, all are among the artists who crossed the 400 million mark.
Wow.
But they did much more shows. Like, they had a whole, we had a whole different numbers of shows. I can't see the show. Oh, here's the numbers. So it looks like U2 had 100 shows, Roger Waters 219, The Police had 156. No, Jay-Z and Beyonce are only about to have 20 shows.
Wow, and they're already getting much more money than...
So it looks like they're going to make $5 million in grosses per show.
Wow.
And the only one to outdo it is U2 360 tour that made $7 million a show. So it looks like they're fine.
They're fine.
They had this whole like Solange thing, and then they were talking about a crumbling marriage, but it looks like they're out there once again.
So the elevator ordeal is behind us, and now we can just look at our bank accounts and breathe a nice big sigh of relief.
A nice big sigh, of course.
Ronnie Stav, thank you for joining us. We're now going to welcome once again I-24 News Sports Magazine host Jonathan Regev.
Morning.
Speaking about raking in the money, there's Lots of money flying around Sao Paulo, but there's finally the exciting time where we know who's going to be going up to the next step and who's staying behind.
Yep, we already have 2 second-round fixtures already set. That's going to be Brazil against Chile, and the other one will be the Netherlands against Mexico. Those games were set last night. Now, they were finally set, but there was some drama, some suspense along the way. We'll start with Group A. That's where it was unclear. Mexico met Croatia. Both teams had a chance. Croatia needed to win. Mexico could qualify with a draw, but Mexico was a better team. They won 3-1. Now, why am I saying suspense? Because at a certain moment, the goal difference was such that Mexico and Brazil were standing together in first place. Brazil was first only on goal difference. But then Brazil scored again, meaning they're first, and they're against Chile. Chile against Brazil, that's a game with a lot of history. They met in the 1998 second round. They met again in the second round. Both times Brazil won. Now it's a third time. Whether it's going to be third time lucky for Chile or Brazil, we have to see.
Wow.
The Netherlands and Chile, they both knew they qualified. The only question regarding that game is who will be first. The Netherlands won, they're first, and they avoid Brazil.
They've been having a great time so far back there in Sao Paulo, the Netherlands. They've really been, showing their best players and doing it in such a...
The Netherlands have been great. It started from their first match when they beat world champion Spain 5-1. Look,
we remember that one.
Spain played last night. We're not even mentioning it. They won 3-0 because it's a game that was not important. They beat the Socceroos, the Australians 3-0. That's a farewell game for both of them because right after both teams boarded the plane to go home. The Netherlands, they continue. They had a great first round. They're not going to have an easy second round against Mexico. Mexico are very, very impressive. But that's a knockout stage. Knockout stage, one game, anything can happen.
Right.
So these 2 games already set. Chile, Brazil won on Saturday. Mexico against the Netherlands, that's on Sunday.
Nice.
Now,
so who's out of the tournament and we won't see them ever again?
Spain and Australia, we know they're out. That's from Group B. Croatia had a chance, but they lost it yesterday. So together with Cameroon, they're out. All those 4 teams probably around the airport right now.
Yeah. And I'm sure that out of all those teams, the most depressed fans are definitely the Spanish fans.
Obviously. They already had some days to absorb it. It started, ever since...
Started with that merchandise T-shirt of Holland and Spain that we were talking about.
Exactly. And ever since day 2 of this World Cup, when they lost 5-1 to the Netherlands, it was quite obvious they're not at their best. But then came the game against Chile, which they lost 2-0, which sealed the deal, sent them home. Now, they won yesterday 3-0. They just showed how much quality they have. I heard people from Spain saying before the game, I don't know if what would be better, to lose again, to see how bad we are, or to win again and then say, oh, if we've played like this ever since the beginning, what could have been?
Right.
Well, they won, so yes, they are thinking what could have been. If I were a Spanish fan, yeah, I'd be depressed right now, but I'd still be optimistic. Spain is a very, very good team. We will see them go very far in the next Euro, and don't be surprised if we see them go very far in the next World Cup.
But after games like this, they just go home, learn, practice, and then come back to...
And they will. They're good.
Speaking about learning and practices, Suarez in Uruguay, wow.
Wow. And they play Italy tonight in the group of death. The group of death, that's the most interesting story of this World Cup.
Okay.
3 former world champions, Uruguay, Italy, and England. And then we said, oh yeah, there's a 4th team, Costa Rica. They're not going to do anything. Well, Costa Rica, they qualified. They assured themselves of the first place. And England is already out. I have to say, as usual, I'm sorry, our British friends, English friends, I'm sorry.
Don't worry, they're still drinking in the pub. They didn't get the memo that they're out.
They have no idea what's going on.
That is true. And then Uruguay and Italy are going to face tonight. Only one of them will qualify. Winner goes through, loser goes home. If there's a draw, the Italians will be in. Great match. Luis Suarez, we just saw how big that man is, and he will be the deciding factor.
Yeah.
Costa Rica also plays England tonight. That game is not really important. Costa Rica, as we said, already first. England, as we say, already on the way to the pub.
Well, Costa Rica is like perhaps like the Cinderella story.
Absolutely. This is, I remember I myself said it, well, Costa Rica, they're not going to do anything. They had the worst luck ever in the draw. What a terrible group. Well, what a terrible group for whoever has to face Costa Rica. That's the story.
Nice story. Any other game tonight that we should look forward to?
Yeah, there's also a game between Colombia and Japan. The Colombians are sure of their place in the next round. They just need a point to qualify from the first place. And even if they lose, depending on goal difference, they may still get it. We thought Colombia will be will be much weaker without star striker Radamel Falcao, but they showed us that they're a very, very good team. Even without him, the Ivory Coast will probably join them also from Group C. They face Greece later on.
Very nice. Quickly, I know that everyone's talking only about the World Cup, but Wimbledon is around the corner.
Once every 4 years, the Wimbledon organizers, they have a problem because this big tournament goes, as we say, under the radar because there's so much focus on the World Cup. But yes, Wimbledon started yesterday. Defending champion Andy Murray already won his first match. No, Andy Murray's win last
After
year.
England is not doing well in Brazil.
Yeah, now they have one more game tonight, and then they'll have all the time in the world to focus on Wimbledon and cheer Andy Murray again. Let's remember, last year he was the first British champion in Wimbledon since 1936.
I remember that. Yeah, I definitely remember that. Jonathan Rega, we're going to, of course, watch Wimbledon also closely. That's better across my alley more. I can't lie.
Tennis is good.
Thank you for joining us. That's it for this morning. Visit us on the web, i24news.tv, or on our Facebook page. And don't forget to join us again tomorrow morning to start your day every day. I'm Yael Wissner-Levy. Next up are the headlines.